Okay, so Guardian. The first build I'm going to go over match is the standard dungeon build. Greatsword, sword focus. It is Berserker and Scholar. I haven't even put double sigils in yet, but it is a greatsword with DPS sigils and sword focus with DPS. As far as stacking weapons go, I stack Bloodlust on my Guardian. So that is pretty straightforward. Traits. This is the standard dungeon build. I'll discuss what we use in Fractals next, but for dungeons you always want to go 10 or 2 into Zeal for Fiery Wrath. Increase damage against burning foes by 10%. Thanks to Virtue of Justice, your foes will always be burning, and you will always get 10%. Okay, next in Radiance. We go 25 into Radiance. First trait we're going to take is Blind Exposure. Inflicting blindness also applies vulnerability. So, Virtue of Justice, when you activate it, inflicts blindness. So, Virtue of Justice, when you activate it, will inflict burning, blindness, and vuln. Pretty good. And then Renewed Justice. Virtue of Justice is renewed when you kill a foe. When you kill a foe, this refreshes. So when you're fighting a bunch of trash mobs, you can spam the Virtue of Justice. The next one we'll take is Powerful Blades. It's 10% damage increase when using a sword. Some of the time you'll be on sword. And then lastly, Radiant Power. Damage to foes with a condition on them, which will be always, is 10%. So you're getting an extra 10% DPS pretty much always. We used to go for 30 into right-handed strength, but I don't believe that is optimal anymore outside of certain particular situations. So next, we go all the way down to Virtues and put in 25. First one you're going to always take is the most important trait that a Guardian has, and that's Master of Consecrations. The important consecrations are Wall of Reflection and Purging Flames. This will increase the duration of the consecration by 20% and reduce the cooldown, so you'll have massively higher uptime. Wall of Reflect, everyone knows how good Wall of Reflect is. You put up the wall and stand behind it, and projectiles bounce off of each other or from the bosses. You can do damage, you can protect your team. It's just a great trait. Purging Flames is a fire field. It inflicts burning and it removes conditions. This is your condition removal field for the most part. You will drop the fire field. You can use your sword focus to stack might. Your party can stack might in the fire field. You can remove conditions. It's an overall very good trait. Master of Consecrations is great. I also take here Absolute Resolution. Activating Virtual Resolve removes conditions from allies. Activating Virtual Resolve is a condition removal on a 48-second cooldown. It will remove 3 conditions from your team, and combined with Purging Flames, you have a very good amount of condition removal, more than you'll need for most dungeons. If, for whatever reason, you're in an instance where you don't need the condition removal, or you don't need Master of Consecrations, you can always change them out for Unscathed Contender, so you deal more damage when under the effects of Aegis. Certain dungeons, you'll be able to keep Aegis up quite a lot. Other dungeons, you will not be able to keep Aegis up very much at all. So, Unscathed Contender varies in how useful it is. But you can, but it is an option when you don't have much else better to do. And then lastly, Power of the Virtuous. It's another 1% damage for every boon on you. Generally speaking, you're going to have a lot of boons in the middle of combat. You're also going to have Fury. You're going to have Stability sometimes. There's quite a bit. It's just a good trait to have. It's a DPS increase. This is the standard, what I would call the standard Guardian build for dungeons. The way it plays is you use Greatsword for burst and Sword Focus for sustained DPS. I like to start every fight with Whirling Wrath, followed by Leap of Faith, followed by Symbol, and then Binding Blades. Then you're going to do an auto attack chain with your Greatsword until Whirling Wrath is off cooldown, Whirling Wrath again, and then you can switch to your Sword Focus and start doing your rotation. You're going to want to use Shield of Wrath, Ray of Judgment, and then auto attack. Flashing Blades is a DPS decrease. I would only use it if you need the blind or if you need the Vuln. And Zealot's Defense isn't a DPS increase. It's the same as an auto attack. Only use Zealot's Defense if you need the projectile reflect. Oh, yeah, you guys pointed out I am missing. Sorry. Yeah, they go there for Zealous Blade. My mistake. Thank you guys for pointing that out. Yes, it's 45005. For a while, you could, if you don't want that, go to Honor for Superior Area or something, but I think that's pretty bad. You could even go 5 in Honor for the Vigor, and then go 5 for Right Hand Strength. But I don't really care for this build either. I still think the best thing you can be doing is that. So that is the general dungeon build for the Guardian. So the next build is sort of the Fractal build, and that is Hammer Greatsword. So, Hammer Greatsword. This is what we use in Fractals, where the hammer is a lot more relevant of a weapon. We'll go through the traits quickly on that. First, you go to 3 in Zeal, and we're going to take Fiery Wrath again. The reason why we go this far into Zeal is Symbolic Exposure. It makes your symbols inflict vulnerability. With the Greatsword Hammer build in Fractals, you're going to always have a symbol up, so you will always be ticking the vulnerability. I think it's worth like 4 vulnerability over time if the targets that you're hitting don't die, but it's just a good trait. It helps a lot. Next, we go 25 back into Radiance, back into Blind Exposure. However, we're not using Sword, except against certain particular bosses where we need the focus. So you can kind of do a different thing here. I forget what's the one that we take. Like, you can either take Searing Flames, you can take Signet Mastery, and then use the Signet Heal. There's a couple different options. Most of the time, however, I just stick with Powerful Blades because there are certain boss fights where you will switch out the Greatsword for the Sword Focus. Like Mossman, Archdiviner, the Dredge Power Suit, and the Powerful Blades will come in handy there, so I just stick with that. We're going to go 10 into Virtues for Master of Consecrations. In Fractals, there are tons and tons of projectiles. So Wall of Reflect is OP in Fractals. So you definitely want Master of Consecrations. Cannot go wrong with that. Additionally, in Fractals, there are times where you want stability, and you can swap for Hallowed Ground as needed. That makes Master of Consecrations works on Hallowed Ground as well. Cannot go wrong with Master of Consecrations. Alright, go back to Purging Flames. So the last 4 points, we go into Honor in the Hammer build. You take the Writ of Persistence. Symbols last longer. This will make the Hammer symbol last 4 seconds. You get an extra tick on the Symbolic Exposure. You get an extra stack of protection. And it does more damage when the symbol ticks to the foe. With Writ of Persistence, it makes hammer auto attack DPS very actually close to the sword and greatsword in terms of overall DPS. Alright, and then here you can take Superior Aria. It does help retreat cooldown faster. It's not overwhelming. You're pretty much only ever going to have retreat in Fractals. So I'm not a huge fan of that. You can also take the symbols are larger. That's another option. It makes your symbols do better against trash mobs on your hammer. But that's basically the options for the greatsword or greatsword and hammer build for Fractals. This is definitely a good build to run in Fractals. The perma protection always useful. Basically, the way it plays is very similar to the other build. You're gonna fight. You're gonna do a greatsword burst to start every fight, and then switch to your hammer and auto attack until whatever you're fighting is dead, which usually won't take very long. So that is it. Does anyone have any questions for Guardian before we go? Question: will Obel upload a new in-depth guide for Guardians? He will. I believe he was recording it today, and he'll have it uploaded soon. His guide will go into way more depth and be way more specific and be way better than what I'm talking about now. But so definitely check that out if you are a Guardian enthusiast. Tactical Luke asks, say you're a lazy crap who doesn't mess with having two of the same weapon for stacking. Is it better to have stacking weapon on always or Force Knight? Stacking, that's tough to say. If you're super lazy and you don't want to have a separate stacking weapon, you don't want to have an underwater weapon with the stacking sigil, I don't know. I would probably stack with the empty slot. Definitely the 12 stacks, but it varies based on dungeons. Like certain dungeons, like Koth 1, you only kill like 5 things the entire dungeon. I think like a Raw Path 3, you only kill like 5 things the entire dungeon. So stacking is worthless in those. I mean, if you're just lazy, don't stack. That's the simple way to do it. If you're lazy, if you're that lazy, then just don't stack. It'll be easier and be better all around. But the better solution is to not be lazy and stack properly. All right.